Alex here with another video on high conflict child custody. So this video is going to be on adoption. I believe I mentioned in my updates video that I did terminate my ex's parental rights and have my son adopted to my wife, which is his stepmom. There's two ways to do an adoption. One is through the adoption agencies. This is the more expensive way to do it. It drags out and it takes forever. The other way is you can just directly file a petition for adoption in the district court with your name on it as petitioner. You can basically get around the whole, all the agencies and just go straight to the court. There are a few caveats to when you do it this way. Obviously, you have to pay a filing fee, which is going to be way cheaper than hiring an attorney, or when you could hire an attorney as well. I actually did all my paperwork and hired my attorney right at the end just for him to do his 10-minute oral arguments at the very end. And of course the agencies, from my understanding is that they cost thousands of dollars, maybe, I don't know, 500 to, I don't know, 2,500, something like that, especially for like infants and such. Anyway, when you file a petition in Nevada, I'm only going to talk about Nevada because I personally did it, so I have experience in this area, and I've only done it once. So please check your own state, check your own statutes, and even if you're in Nevada, just double check that things haven't changed. The first thing that's going to happen is you're going to file the petition for adoption, and you're going to have to take care of two different things. The first is something called a welfare investigation. Now, since I'm his natural father, my son's natural father, I was able to get a waiver, but it's not automatic. So you either have to coordinate with an agency to get your welfare investigation done. I think it's the Department of Family Services in Nevada. Or you're going to have to file a motion asking the judge to waive it. That's what I did. To file a motion, you basically look at the statutes and it'll articulate what is required for you to get a waiver. And it's like within the third degree of consanguinity, which is basically blood. So I suppose, like, if I was an uncle or a brother, you know, third degree. I'm first degree since I'm his father. If you can show that, you can waive the welfare investigation. That's what I did. The second thing you have to do is file an affidavit setting forth fees, costs, expenses that people have contributed to you to get the adoption done. That one you can also get waived, and that one is waived for the same reason. So I got a waiver on that one too. So just letting you know that those are two things you have to do. You have to take care of those two things before you can set a hearing for your adoption. After you take care of those two things, you have to get something called a consent. This is normally what you have to do. You have to get a consent signed by anyone who has legal custody of the child or the natural mom and the natural dad. So since I'm natural dad, I didn't have to get my own consent because I'm going to retain custody because I'm adopting him with my wife. There's no one else who has legal custody, and so that left open only one person, my ex. So I would have had to get a consent, and that is a way you can do it. But because I didn't know where she was and she had abandoned him, the statutory definition for abandonment is 6 months or more of no contact. I'm going to go over this more in another video, which I'm going to title Termination of Parental Rights. Anyway, the way to get around getting a consent is to terminate that person's parental rights. Once their parental rights have been terminated, there's no longer any need for consent since they're no longer the parent of the child. It sounds pretty harsh, but that's what it is. When you terminate a person's parental rights, you are erasing their status as a parent. And again, I'm going to go into more detail in the termination of parental rights video. But just finishing off this adoption video, those are the three things, those are the three major things you need to take care of. The first is the fees and costs, the second is the welfare investigation, and the third is the consents. Once you take care of all that and you have your ex served, you have to set a hearing. In Nevada, the hearing is not set automatically, so you have to read the court rules and figure out how to set the hearing because the judge won't do it automatically. Once the hearing is set, you show up. It was really quick. It was like seriously 5 minutes. My family showed up. My wife was there, obviously. The judge talked to my son. That's something that's going to happen. If your child is under a certain age, the court may consider their wishes but isn't bound by them. If the child is over a certain age, the child can actually stop the adoption. I think that it's like 13 or 14, but don't quote me on that. I don't feel like checking right now. And it didn't apply in my case. But there is an age at which the child can say, I don't want to be adopted, and then the judge can't do it. So with that, I'm going to end this video. I wanted to cover one more thing on service. So service of process was a little bit complicated in this case, but I'm not going to go into detail in this video. I'd rather do a separate video on it. Because I couldn't locate my ex, I couldn't have her served with a petition for adoption, and I had to do something called public service by publication, which is where you put them in the newspaper. So that's not really an adoption thing. That's a issue that could apply in any court case. So stand by. I'm going to do 2 other videos on this termination of parental rights and service by publication. But with that, this video on adoption is going to end. Thank you.